Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Documentary Club. I'm Jeff Jones, and with me today is Susan and Katie. Appreciate you for joining, and I appreciate everybody out there in chat for joining too after the premiere of Face to Face with Scott Peterson documentary currently streaming on Peacock. Before we get into that, though, let's introduce who we got today on the panel. And Susan, we'll go with you first. How are you doing, Susan? How do you feel about this documentary so far?
Oh, yeah, it leaves me with a lot of questions. Um, there's a lot of stuff really before these came out that I wasn't aware of in this case. Um, and looking back 20, 21 years ago, whatever it's been, I don't have a clear memory of everything. Of course, all the stuff in the press kind of sticks in your mind. But yeah, it's left me with some questions actually.
Cool. Well, did you write them down?
Yeah, actually, I wrote down more of the A&E questions.
Oh, okay. Well, before we get to the A&E thing, I'd like to welcome Katie. Katie,
Hey, good to
how you
be
doing?
here. Oh, I'm good. I think my main takeaway is I hate Nancy Grace more than I ever did before.
I cut her out. She's in this documentary a couple times, and I definitely cut her out of this one.
God, I
Um,
can't
That's hard.
stand
That's
that.
hard to do. Yeah,
I
yeah,
just,
yeah,
I
she's hard to
despise
deal
her.
with. But
I
I think,
mean,
go ahead.
it would. I mean, she obviously is not a serious person. I mean, her show, whatever, you know, is all about sensationalism and I mean
She
she
piles
never
on.
looks yeah, she never looks at the facts of a case. She judges everything based on emotion and she admits that she helps convict people in the press. And she's not going to apologize for it either because she thinks someone's guilty and that's horrible what happened to Lacey and Connor. No shit. That's horrible what happened to Lacey and Connor. That's terrible, but people deserve to have a fair trial. I'm sorry.
And you mentioned the A&E documentary a little bit earlier, and in the A&E, which I think we're going to have to cover in the next few weeks, because the A&E documentary also brings up a bunch of new information that I didn't know about. And in that one, we have it shows that that Peterson's dad, Scott Peterson's dad, goes on Larry King Live and actually confronts Nasty Disgrace about how she judges people, and he's like, "Where's the presumption of innocence?" And her reply is, "This isn't a court of law." But
But
you play one
she
on
was a
TV.
prosecutor.
That's
She
yes,
was
exactly. That's my point. But
at
you were
one
a
time.
prosecutor, and that's why we hired you for this job, to give a and so it just seems like she does jump to conclusions. And I think her whole motive for becoming a prosecutor, I don't know, we should talk too much about Nancy Grace, but her whole motive for becoming a prosecutor is because her friend was a victim of a crime, or her boyfriend or her fiance, I forget which one.
I
Yeah,
think it was her
was killed.
fiance.
Fiance was
Was
killed.
murdered.
And so does that cloud her judgment a little bit, that everybody who's accused must have done it, and she's on this, like, personal vendetta to lock up every bad doer? I don't know.
That's
It
her
seems
confirmation
like it.
bias,
And
That's her
prejudging.
confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot that can be said about Nancy Grace, but I don't know if I want to waste any more oxygen on that. Speaking of, I think she is on oxygen, isn't she?
Huh. A
I don't
couple
Wait.
know.
years
Don't
ago,
care.
she was gonna do she was gonna do some
Innocent.
show, yeah, something where she was gonna. I can't remember what the deal was, but basically judge cases fairly.
Oh,
Taking the
sure.
other side. going
I just
from a
shredded her on
defendant.
Twitter because it's like, are you freaking kidding me? You are the last person to host that sort of a show. You need to go dig a hole.
Away.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel?
I don't like her. I do not like her at all.
I mean,
I mean,
either.
she did the same thing to Daniel Holtzclaw in a Crime
Oh, is that
Watch
right?
episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't even know any facts of the case. You need to shut up.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
yeah.
Yeah. That's how I
Okay.
feel. I'm done.
Okay. Any last comments on her before we move on?
No, it's good.
No.
Okay. I can't stand her either, but that's why I cut her out of the. I shouldn't say I cut her out. I just didn't feature any clips with her in it. So I do have some questions for you, and the chat. If anybody out there feels like piping up. First one is, how do you feel about the Innocence Project taking on the Scott Peterson case?
Well, I think that if there's a question and it has to do with DNA, that's what the Innocence Project does. They test DNA. It doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't know that it necessarily means that they support him as much as they believe that perhaps he didn't get a fair trial. And maybe they just believe that everyone's entitled to have their evidence tested. And it was such a high profile case too that I mean, I honestly have no idea who got them to take the case, but I think it's great. I think test all the evidence.
I agree.
I don't think anyone who is going to have their freedom taken away from them should ever be denied testing.
I agree. And I think I mentioned it in the comments or when we were talking before we started today. And especially in a case that was a capital murder trial that has no forensic evidence in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't think. Okay, let's back up. Number one, I don't really agree with the death penalty. We can talk about why later. I'm pretty practical on that. Number two, I don't know if you should be able to convict someone with the death penalty if there's no physical evidence. Like, that seems to be a stretch for me. And if you do get in this situation, if you do get in a situation like this, then you're like, okay, there's no physical evidence in this case, and now we have something to test. Isn't that enough to say, well, there's no physical evidence, and now we actually have something to test? We should be required to test the one, or 14 items or whatever that are physical evidence that could, potentially change the outcome of this one.
The only thing I care about is the truth.
Right.
And if that is going to further the truth one way or the other, I say test everything that he wants to test. And, there's no reason to hold it back. They keep that evidence. Why keep it? If it's just going to sit somewhere forever. I mean, it's been 21 years. They still have it. Why even have it? It's not to retest later, to have that possibility if there is a question of guilt.
Our justice system is so screwed up because, things like procedural bars.
Right.
Get me started, Kay.
I mean, seriously, because
you filed the wrong paperwork. Now you're done.
Oh, we got you on a technicality. We don't give a crap if you spend the rest of your life in prison and you're innocent.
It's like when your elementary teacher is like, you didn't put your name on your assignment, you get a 0.
Yeah. Same kind of thing.
You
I
know,
did
and
the work.
especially for people who have a really crappy attorney,
Fair
you
enough.
put
It's a lot.
everything into your attorney. You have to trust that, whether it's a court appointed attorney because you're poor and poor people lose all the time, um, or whether
Or
you
you
pay $250,000 to a high profile attorney to give you a defense and then they can't get their shit together.
or you
Uh,
get a crappy jury. Juries don't always get it right.
yeah.
People always say, well, they were convicted by a jury. Well, they don't always get it right, obviously. Look at
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
the
really
people
good
that are
point.
being exonerated, you know.
My
It is
response to
a
that is always check out the innocence, check out the list of exonerees because they were all convicted by a jury of their peers as well.
Exactly.
So don't give me that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I, in fairness, I think until you get involved in a case, whether it's you got involved because you saw a documentary or whether you have a personal connection with someone and you get involved, I think people just do not understand the corruption in the justice system. I think they trust that it's everything's fair, it's a fair process, and the truth will come out in the end, and it's
That's
less
not what it
and
is.
less
Yeah.
like that.
I
Yeah.
have one truth. There's only one truth I know today, and that is Jack had a really long nap, but he finally woke up and logged on. So let's welcome Jack, but let's not give him too much of a leash here on this one. We gotta give him a little bit of a hard time about being late. Welcome, Jack.
He's only 24 minutes late,
Yeah.
Jack.
Well, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. How's everybody doing today?
Oh, we're good. We didn't get a nap, but we're good.
Yeah, I got something, but hey, thanks for that warm welcome. Appreciate that.
We'll be nice.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime, buddy.
What a crazy documentary, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let me restate that. What a crazy case.
Yeah.
This documentary. Yeah, I mean, I've been listening along. There are a few things in this one that surprised me. The van photos, the DNA on the mat or the mattress, and that being withheld. I have a problem with that. Hey, look, even though I believe that he's guilty, just from what all the it's a huge amount of circumstantial evidence. It's not just a little bit.
His
And
actions, basically. And
thank you, that's right.
yeah, they are very, very sus.
They
But
are.
do you have a bit of reasonable doubt at this point?
I mean,
Um,
I do.
Yeah, me too.
I think
I
it's
don't
fair to
think-
say that after, at least for me, after I watched the A&E documentary, is where I have more reasonable
Yes.
doubt, more doubt,
Right.
because that
Same.
one really lays out a more compelling case, far better
It
than this
does.
documentary. And so we'll have to do an end around. We'll come back to this case again and cover that A&E one, and that will give people. And I did a poll in the premiere, and it was not overwhelmingly people believed in his innocence. It was pretty 50-50. So
And that was done in what, 2017, Jeff?
that was 2017. I'm pretty sure. I think you're right on that.
So it kind of surprises me that this new one, the one we just covered, that was kind of Scott's side of the story, that they didn't cover a few points that were in that A&E documentary
It
that I
definitely
found
missed a few.
very compelling.
Do you remember
Like-
any offhand that you can think of?
Like I think it was 7 pregnant women going missing in right around the same area in a short amount of time. I forget.
And Modesto, and they're from
In
Modesto, right? Is it Modesto? Is it
Around
is it
Modesto.
Modesto,
Yes.
Is it Modesto they're from?
Yes.
correct.
And they're in that region, Susan?
Yes.
In that region. You're gonna have to watch the A&E, Jack. You're gonna get blown away.
Oh,
You might
you
even
haven't
come out.
seen that yet?
You might even come out going, I don't know, man. Maybe we need to really take a closer look at this one because that issue. But on top of that, there was a witness who said that she was working at a store like a mile away from their house. I think it was the
A clothing store on Christmas Eve.
on Christmas Eve, and she sees these two guys across the street parked in a car eyeballing her, and she's 8 months pregnant. This woman is also
Just
8 months
staring
pregnant.
at her. Yeah.
And they're just eyeballing her, and she got really freaked out, ran into the thing, locked
No,
herself in the
Jeff.
office,
Yeah.
and called the cops. And the cops came, and
No.
those guys took off. That was Christmas Eve. That was essentially the same
But
day, the morning
before
that
that-
Lacey disappeared.
Yeah, but before that happened, they flipped around, pulled in front of the store, and one of the guys actually came in the store, and
Oh.
she ran to the back room and locked herself in and called the police.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple instances like that, Jack, where you go, huh? Now they're making a compelling story for this abduction of a pregnant woman.
And
If-
she's
if it
sitting there
had-
saying, "Oh my God, it could have been me." You know,
if it happened once, okay, I might be able to say, okay, that's weird. But
seven,
seven or eight times.
right?
What?
Now, why isn't that information in this new documentary? I'm curious
I don't know. I don't understand that. I really don't.
about. Yeah,
Wow.
because that
And
really.
then so there was another point, unless you have another one. Do you have another one from?
Well, I think this is from the A&E, where they said there was a witness at the dock that saw Scott in his boat and saw that it was empty.
Mhm.
Didn't
Yeah,
hear
that's in
about
the-
that in either one of those documentaries that we
That's
saw.
No,
That's not in the Netflix or the Peacock version.
The one
What-
also, I'm glad that we have Jack here because he hasn't seen the A&E one, so he can keep it straight for us a little bit to remember
Yeah, that's it.
which one.
Yeah.
Did you see this, Jack?
Right.
No? Then it must be in the A&E one. That the pliers that had the black hair in it were actually rusted shut. So there's no way that was a fresh black hair. But in the documentary, they make it seem like it's some incriminating evidence.
now how soon did they? I mean, things can rust pretty quickly.
I mean, that was like
Well,
the next day. Like they
In
searched,
salt wa-
Oh.
they
well,
searched his
in-
boat the next day.
well,
You know?
in salt water, if you get salt water on something, it can definitely rust pretty damn quickly, depending on the metal.
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
nickel-
Fair enough. I'll give you
I
that.
just-
In my experience,
In a
no.
day?
I live right near
Yeah.
the ocean, and all my
Okay.
tools get rusty like immediate. Everything just deteriorates here, and I think that's a stretch. But that's just me. That's just my opinion.
I just never
Well-
gave the hair any weight anyway.
It
The
depends
hair.
on. It
Uh,
depends in metal. I can tell you, it depends on nickel content.
Sure.
And there's another alloy that they put in to prevent rust. Anyway, I can't remember what it is. Anyway, there's nickel content and whatever this other hell it is, alloy, will stop or slow down rusting of metal. So, depending on how rusty they were, Jeff just said it. So but that is interesting.
But
is
I mean,
interesting.
her hair on
Should be
on
everywhere.
him or in him. I mean,
That could
that
be.
doesn't
yeah.
really. That
Doesn't-
doesn't
prove
prove
anything.
anything.
unless you
at
see like
all.
hair follicle at the end with a little bit of blood on it or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Hey,
there
SK
you go.
Remit, SK Remit official. Nice to see you again. Our
From
Our,
Bangladesh.
fellow- documentary club member from Bangladesh. Awesome. I love to have
Wow.
international
Wild.
people from all around
Other
the
side of the
world.
Other side of the world. Woohoo.
Other side of the world. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. I got a couple questions. Number one, and I'm going to bounce around, maybe not in a chronological order, but do you think that the tape that they found around the baby and Lacey could have just been out in the bay and somehow, or do you think that that was almost certainly from the crime?
I find that very puzzling. I believe they said that was knotted around his neck.
That's right. So
it was 1.5 times around, and then his ear was taped back, one of his ears.
Like this is some pretty good evidence that maybe Scott didn't do it, right? That
yeah,
I couldn't see him removing his child and then dumping his wife. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. But I guess the scenario that I see is if someone else is responsible, they got spooked when this went national news and they just got rid of both of them, right? They were going to sell off the baby and maybe just dump her or whatever they planned on it. They got spooked and said, we got to get rid of this. We can't, it's too hot for us to have this woman around, I don't know. But how do you, I don't know how to explain that. Maybe, I don't know how to explain.
Maybe they were stealing the baby and the baby died and they were trying to take him.
So
something went wrong. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
I find it really puzzling that the baby's skin was in really good shape.
That just means it stayed in the womb for a long time.
I think so.
I think protected. Even in the womb after death, do you think it would?
Yeah,
well,
it would.
If the water sac doesn't get broken,
right?
Yeah,
it's possible. I mean, I don't know how long that will stay in.
I mean, it was like 3 or 4 months, right?
4 months. 4 months. 4 months.
4 months. That's a long time.
That's crazy. That's a long time to me too, Susan. And yeah, I don't understand that. I don't.
If Lacey's legs were tied together or taped together, and the tape was partially coming off, and then
they weren't there.
No, I wasn't right. I wasn't finished.
Oh, sorry.
Let it finish. Let it finish, guys.
And then through the process of, the fish life and decomposition, when they, her limbs finally separate from her body, the baby would probably come out immediately after that.
At that time, yeah. I
I mean, perhaps the baby could get tied up in some tape somehow in that process, but we're never gonna know.
Why do you think the baby would come out? I mean, there's no physical reaction.
I mean, especially because I don't think that she was like, okay, I'm gonna bring up a diagram. They said torso, but most of her body was intact. The majority of it was not like completely shredded apart. It wasn't just like missing. She only was missing one lower part of the leg and an arm and her head. So the torso.
Both of her feet were gone, though.
Both of her feet were gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and her arms, weren't they? And her head.
I have a picture somewhere. If I'm trying to find that.
I can't remember if all of her extremities were gone or not.
Just parts of them.
I just had that file too. Where did I put that? Jack, you don't seem to have that handy with the court exhibit website, do you?
Probably
that
do.
One that we dug up.
Yeah, probably do.
If you can get to that and send it over, that would be super helpful right now. I can't seem to find it.
If you go to just so you'll know from now on, if you go to the court, to our private chat.
Yeah.
You go to the pinned messages. It's the top.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Boom.
But Susan, to answer your question, how the baby would come out, it's a process that happens, as it's called coffin birth. But it happens in a process because of the increased pressure from intra-abdominal gases.
Okay, that makes sense.
Basically force the delivery.
That makes sense.
And the only thing that would keep that from happening would be if her legs were
Right.
taped together
together.
where there was no opening.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's just shocking to me if she was in the water that long. Man, I know it was cooler weather, but I don't really know that region, Modesto Bay and all that. How?
It's cold water. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Brackage. It's it's saltwater and fresh.
right, but I'm really thinking more about from a predator standpoint of what's in the water. Now I don't look sharks
Oh,
don't like cold water.
Seals around there.
seals,
Yeah,
otters.
there we go. Now that's more on to there are obviously other predators, but for her to be able to stay any viability for that many months, if she was dumped in the water and stayed there for 4 months, man, before let's just say Christmas Eve, December 24th, and it was March or April before she was found. They were found.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't know.
hot winter.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just no doctor or any kind of pathologist. I don't. It just seems like a long time for the predators to really
It is.
not gotten to her and Connor.
So this
But
is the diagram that was used in court to demonstrate which parts of her body were missing.
oh, okay.
Oh,
So
See,
below the black lines.
I thought it was more. Why was
That's what I thought
thinking-
too. But this was the one in court.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it does look like, you know, but I don't think they ever said it looked like saw marks or anything like that. You know what I mean? They never seemed
No.
to
Yeah.
say
No.
that. So,
No.
but yeah, it did seem a little hard to understand that. I thought it was a lot less of her remains were there,
Me too.
but this is what they used in court instead of showing the graphic photo.
Yeah, I think Kay explained it very well. I didn't even think about it.
The gases.
The body. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Exactly. It's gross, but
it is
Yeah, yeah.
gross.
Mm.
It's really, really
Disgusting.
morbid.
it really is morbid.
Well, with the baby being in the shape he is, you would think that those parts of her body, at least her legs parts, had
Okay,
come off
so-
recently, right?
Let's get a little science-y on that for a second, because here it said, where did I lose it? Of course, I'm
Yeah.
trying to zoom in on something and I lost the stupid thing here. I will share this website. It's all about, this is all has to do with Lacey, but I'll just read this. This is the diagram showing where Lacey disarticulated. According to the experts, the body usually disarticulates in the following order. Disappearance of body parts following the general sequence: bones of the hands and wrists, bones of the feet and ankles, and the mandible and cranium. So according to this, she lost the pieces in a normal, natural disarticulation sequence. So it does, so to their trained eye, they go, well, this is what we usually see in bodies. The head comes off, the arms, the hands come off, the feet come off, and then it's less and less.
That's
Wow.
yeah. I don't know why I had it in my mind. I guess it's just the way the mind works. That her legs were gone, basically right up to the coocher. Gone. That's just what I had in my mind. Not saying that either documentary put that in my mind. It's just it drew its own conclusion.
So the
Incorrectly.
the doctor that testified, coincidentally, his last name is Peterson as well. He says, to the counter argument that Lacey was dismembered intentionally, Dr. Peterson said there were no tool marks, but that didn't prove none had been used. That's, but that's their opinion. but that didn't prove there's none that's been used. It's just there were no tool marks. So if you combine there's no tool marks and disarticulation happens in this sequence, and we see that the same things in that first things to go, the head, the hands, and the feet, you're going to draw the conclusion that this happened naturally in the water.
Right.
That clears up something for me. I feel a lot better about knowing that now.
Yeah, it's just shocking to me that a human body, female or otherwise, would last that many months in the water and remained anywhere near that intact.
Well, and then the lower legs, forearms, and upper arms are the next units to separate from the body. So had it been longer, then she would have had less legs and less arms. I know that this stuff sounds gross, but
well, you know,
that's what we're doing. We're just
grossing people out.
Grossing people out, losing subs as we go every minute. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate all the subs out there. You guys are great. And I appreciate the members who join and support the channel. I really appreciate that. It keeps me going when I don't want to edit any longer. And so thank you guys all out there. There was something I wanted to look up. What was I doing here? Okay, I got another question for you guys.
Yep.
So when Scott says, I don't want to give them, I don't want to let them in the house, there was no sign of struggle. There's no signs of struggle or anything in the house. He said that in the thing, and it kind of bothered me because I would say, how do you know, Scott? How do you know that there was no sign of struggle? Are you a trained forensic scientist that went through the whole house and searched for every nook and cranny? You know what I mean?
Did he say that after the police said that? Maybe
he said that in an interview.
Yeah, but maybe because I thought I heard the police say that very same thing. So I wonder if he was parroting what he had heard from them. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. I thought that was just a little interesting for him to be like, there's nothing in the house. Why do they need to come in here? There was no struggle. How do you know there was no struggle? And if there was, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was you, Scott. If they find a sign of struggle, it doesn't have to mean that you did it. You know what I'm saying? So what's he worried about?
Maybe just getting jammed up by police
Fair enough.
Just want to solve a case. Not necessarily, and it's easy to think him guilty because his behavior is so bizarre.
Well, his actions with Amber Fry.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that's probably, if he didn't kill Lacey, I think just the affairs alone was the reason he was trying to stay out of the press.
Oh, I'm sure it was, but
which is horrible.
Another reason
your wife is missing.
He flat out lied to her about the entire thing. It wasn't just like, it's bad enough to say, okay, the guy had an affair. Okay, he had an affair, but he lied to this woman like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say everything was a lie, but this is in Alaska, moving on to Germany.
Some guys are just liars. Some guys are just like that. They want.
I thought you said all guys are liars. I was like, yeah.
No.
No.
I mean, I just know a few that are, they want what they want for themselves. They want to keep their other things that they have. They want it all. So.
Let's add on to that a little bit because Joffrey is in the chat, and I appreciate you joining, Joffrey. He made a good question in the premiere, and I said that I'd get to it in the live, and that is, what is Scott's motive? I think that's kind of what you were getting at, right? He wants his cake and eat it too.
You don't have to know the motive to convict someone.
No, it's fair.
No.
Just if you wanted to speculate, what would it be? I think that's it. That's all.
I know what I'm going to say.
All right, say it.
I think that Lacey talked him into getting pregnant. Because remember, early, it was basically revealed that he didn't want kids. She did. We don't know that dynamic. We truly don't know that full dynamic. I remember it. I'm pretty sure it was in the Lacey documentary. It was touched on, but it wasn't really like a big conversation. So she gets pregnant. He, whatever happens, the protection goes away. She gets pregnant because she wants children, and probably would have been a great mom, just from what I can see of her. He's not really into the whole dad thing for whatever reason. I'm not saying he's a psychopath or anything. I'm just saying he doesn't want that connection, doesn't want that responsibility. He wants to be able to do his thing and not be bothered with a screaming kid.
Then he
Right.
surely threw Amber under the bus in the Peacock one that we just covered, where he's like, she wanted to turn it into something it wasn't.
Oh my
He called
God.
her every day. Like, come on, bro. We have 29 hours of recordings, and it wasn't
right.
a relationship. There was nothing gonna ever happen there. She's making it into something bigger than it was. Well, then tell us what it was. What was it then?
Well, it wasn't. There's no way that's a friends with benefits kind of relationship. No way. Wasn't like that. He called her that many times. That's not what.
And he just met her. Like, he met her in October.
Right. Exactly.
And they met 4 times, which doesn't sound a lot, but when she's, when he's so busy as he is, 4 times, he's trying to meet her, I think, as much as he possibly could. He just couldn't get away that often,
Well, no, he
But
had
they
to travel
talked every day, right?
But they talked every day.
Exactly.
On the phone, where I don't know if you guys are interested in checking this out, but I do have, and I'll share that link in the chat right now too. This one is the one that I'm putting there. That's the cell phone one. Here is the court exhibit for the cell phone usage. So you can see, I think that's the last page. Yeah. So the red calls are from Scott. The blue are from Amber. She calls more than one of his cell phones, because she calls, here's the business, right? She's calling the business phone. Make it a little bit bigger. She's calling the business phone and cell phone 1. But if you keep going, you can see, at least on one occasion, she calls the cell phone 2 right here. Look at cell phone 2. So she had at least 2 of his cell phone numbers and a business number that she was talking to him on. And this is their whole call log. This is how much they talked. Let's hear. It starts in November. I guess they don't have October, but maybe this is when they really started talking in November. And then every week, look at this one. Look at how many times they talked that day. You can't tell me that you're not,
it was a relationship.
Well, this is into February already, and that's when she started talking to him more. I guess it's fair. Let's say in January, like right around here, I think the 3rd is when she spoke to the cops. So everything after this is involved with law enforcement. So it's not fair to like put that on them. This was like planned calls. But he didn't know that they were talking to the cops. So he's calling her like normal. And all these red ones are him calling her normal. He doesn't know that there's, so she's calling less maybe. Anyway, it's an interesting document to check out.
Those are all cell phone number 2 in January.
So, they have both of them on there. Here's cell phone she calls on the 29th, cell 1 and cell 2.
I mean, in January. If you look at January.
Yeah, okay.
It's all cell 2.
It's all cell 2?
No,
here's what's VC. Let's check the legend. What's VC? Volunteer Center. She called him at the Wow. She called him at the Volunteer Center? Blue is from Amber. And then she called his cell 1, and then she called cell 2 the next day. So she's using both. She's calling the Volunteer Center, and she's calling cell 1 and cell 2. Here on this day, she does both. Cell 2, cell 1. Here's him calling from cell 1 and what's UNC? And JNP. UNC is, I don't know. JNP is Janie's. So he's making calls from his sister-in-law's phone or his sister's phone. There's a lot of contact here between them. So you guys can dig into that on your own time. But I thought it was interesting to find out their call logs a little bit.
Okay. A huge amount of contact for just something that he says she's trying to make more out of than there was. Because if
I wonder if they were just talking online or something before November 19th.
Well, they met in October, so maybe I don't know. I don't know why it doesn't start in October then and it starts in 19. And I have another thing that I just want to throw out there. We don't know that he didn't have another girlfriend.
Yeah, we don't know. That didn't come forward.
Yeah,
I don't
would
know.
you?
I mean, I guess no.
Hell no.
I'm not sure I would, especially if there was already one girlfriend coming forward. That's enough.
Move to Scandinavia. Gone.
All right. So this next line of questioning, if you will, is all kind of related to the same topic, but there's a few questions that I have about it. And like in the broadest sense, why didn't Garagos, the defense attorney, put those neighborhood witnesses and park witnesses that supposedly saw Lacey after 10:30? Why didn't the Garagos put them on the stand? Why didn't he include that testimony or try to include that testimony of people seeing her after 10:30?
Were there any pretrial motions that precluded that or
the way it was described by everyone, the reporters, was it was a huge blunder. That's so I don't think there was a pretrial hearing that said they couldn't talk to them. It's just that Garagos didn't. That's the story.
A huge blunder. That's your whole damn case. What?
Yeah. Several of them said they called in the tip and never heard back.
Yeah,
so
but then there's
did the defense even know about them?
Yeah, they did.
If they never had.
I thought it was the defense's investigator that found a lot of these people.
It was, and
after the fact or before the trial?
Before the trial.
I'm not sure.
But before and during the trial, I think, or at least during the pretrial anyway. But in this documentary, I'm pretty sure it came out that they said that the police spent a huge amount of time discrediting these people, discrediting their accounting.
All those, there were a lot of them.
Yeah, it was several.
Okay, and I think my next question leads into my own answer to that. So they didn't follow up those tips because the neighbor's story made them believe she was gone before 10:18.
Well, 10:18 is the linchpin, right?
So all those sightings were after like 10:30 and stuff. So
correct.
At 10:18, the neighbor puts the dog in the back, and the prosecution maintains that she's already dead at that point.
I think she could have still been in the house and not gone for her walk yet. I mean, it's a possibility. Okay. Maybe the dog got out when Scott left.
That's my next question. You took it out of my... You took it right out of... It was literally my next question. Did Scott let the dog out by accident when he left?
Possible.
Maybe.
Think about it. At 10:08, he leaves the house. At 10:18, 10 minutes later, the neighbor sees the dog. That
with a leash on, though. It has a leash on.
So, Lacey may have put the leash on him, getting ready to go in something. You know, she had to go pee or.
And in the A&E documentary, to jump forward a little bit, they mention, now this is just anecdotal, but they said it was common for them to put the leash on the dog and let the dog in the front yard by itself for a little bit before they would leave or go for the walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if that's
Wow.
true, then maybe she had let the dog out and the neighbors saw what the dog's doing out and stuck it back in, and Lacey's still in the house at that point.
It's possible.
Right. The linchpin is 1018 for the state.
It
And
is.
I think it was in the A&E, but I thought I think her name was Campos that worked at the hospital that looked down on the park. She went out on her break and she saw Lacey. And she was pretty sure of herself.
Because if that's true, then it puts all of those witnesses back in play. And all those sightings could be real. And then it all fits. Then we go back to the burglary and we go, maybe she did confront those guys.
And, and the woman at the clothing store, that is just so compelling, that she had that scare that morning.
In the area, looking for
In
pregnant
the
women
area.
to abduct.
Yeah.
Well,
Plus
and-
all the pregnant
and-
women that had gone missing in the area.
Thank you. That's a really big deal to me. That's a really big
It
deal.
is.
Modesto's not a tiny town, but it's not that big.
Right. And then they showed, I think that was in A&E, where they showed that really seedy part of Modesto.
Near the airport. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is
Really,
near like
really.
a mile or so from their house, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just meth infested, crime infested, really, really nasty neighborhood with a lot of sketchy people.
Right.
I had no idea Modesto had that portion of it like that.
Modesto population in 2003 was 205,000.
Wow. It's bigger than I thought.
Me too. Still, again, to have 7 or 8 pregnant women go missing and the population
Yeah.
size in a, I don't know what that timetable is, but if it had been within the last 18 months or whatever, I don't know.
I think it would be interesting to maybe investigate those cases and see,
Similarities.
if they linked any of them together, or if the women were found, or what.
Yeah, I did see some of that a little bit on Reddit. Like there were some threads that I did read through that kind of went through that, but it definitely would be interesting to find out more about those cases. And as I said, we'll do the A&E documentary in the next couple of weeks or so, and we'll revisit this so it gives everybody time to go and dig up a little bit, see what you can find out.
Then there was the jailer that called in the tip.
It's a great point.
Aponte was his name.
He seemed
And-
pretty like startled by it because he called back. He called twice. He
Yeah.
called and said, "Okay, we got your tip, thank you," and then didn't hear a follow up because usually if someone's interested, they'll call you and they want to take your report, take your statement. And then he called again and no one followed up on it. Then at some point, investigators went and got the recording, and now the recording's missing.
Right.
That's not okay.
And it was 2 inmates talking, or it was an inmate talking on the phone, right? To somebody.
And apparently the guy said like, "Hey, shut up, don't talk about that. We're being recorded," or something.
They were talking about Lacey confronting the burglars.
Right.
It was one of the burglars that they had in jail. And
That's what I wanted to look up. What time did the burglars actually admit to being there? That's the issue. You guys talk amongst yourself. I'm gonna see if I can find that quick.
Well, there was a woman that witnessed them, Jeff.
But
I don't
my
know.
question
I don't
is,
know if I believe the
when
burglars.
did they? Well, I just
Anything
still
they
want to
have
know
to
what
say?
their story was.
Yeah.
I don't know that they. I don't know that they admitted to a time frame. I don't remember
They
hearing
did.
that.
Well, they said it was the 27th, but they were home already. The
And
people.
there were
Right.
There were
And then
Well,
they
they
said,
changed it.
"Oh,
up and down
Well,
the
it must
street
have
by the
been
24th. There were reporters there by the 24th. So, or I mean,
yeah,
I'm sorry, the 24th night or the
25th
25th
Well,
by
the
the
evening of the
25th or
evening of the
26th."
24th. It's a madhouse.
That's right.
There's a
So
helicopter. There are people in the woods. Remember, that's what what's his name? The detective said. There's a helicopter over the head. There's at least 30 people in the driveway. People are running up and down in the crooks in the rivers to try to find, and people are yelling her name. So probably
it
not
would
the
have had to
best
been.
time to
Yeah, it would have had to
burglarize.
been the morning of the 24th. It would have had to have
Yeah,
been to me.
it would have had to have been
By the way, I
because
just wanted
of all the
I wanted
press
I wanted to
Interesting. Well,
mention
that
and
fits.
police.
I wanted to mention before I forget it. I just saw that James Earl Jones has passed away.
Oh, breaking news.
Yeah, what a
Super
great
sad.
guy.
Darth Vader
Yep.
and
Great
so many other
actor.
great characters that guy played.
1931, he was born.
Holy shnikes, he lived a good one.
Wow. I'll
Was
be
he
back
90
briefly.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
93,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a good life.
2 or
Good for
3.
him.
Thinking on his birthday.
Old Father Time is undefeated though.
no, it's a stalker. It'll get you in the end.
Yeah.
Right back.
Anyway,
Well, I think that's important that we kind of nailed that down because it does only put that burglary right in that time frame. It doesn't allow it to happen that night, at least logically. Maybe that tip, because there was a tip that came in of that woman who said, I saw a woman arguing with people in the front of the Medina's house, and they gave me a dirty look, and I didn't think anything of it until I saw that Lacey was missing and she was never put on the stand. That's some pretty decent reasonable doubt. I'm sorry. If your whole case is circumstantial and you have circumstantial evidence that contradicts your circumstantial evidence, like, I don't know. All right, I'll open it up to your guys' questions. Do you have any questions or comments?
well, I do now. I haven't watched any of the 2017 A&E documentary on this. I have questions. Yeah, I just have just based on what I'm getting from you guys, I'm now questioning what we were told through the media and through these other documentaries that I don't know about. I mean, yeah, look, again, just because of the really, really suspicious way he acted.
Yeah.
It really drove me to maybe a conclusion I shouldn't have reached. If he'd have been straight with Detective Brocchini and the other guy from the beginning, said, "Look, I didn't kill her, but I got to tell you guys, I'm having an affair. It's not been going on that long, but there it is. I'm going to get that out right now. Yeah, you can but the problem is that because he lied to her so many times." And I get what Kay's saying. Guys want to have what they want to have. I understand that. But he could have still done that without going into all this other. But of course, Amber, if she says, "Hey, are you in a relationship?" Yeah, I'm married. But
Oh, you know what? I'm not going to share that because it has someone's private information. I'm not going to put that up.
oh, come
Sorry.
on, you don't want to duck somebody. Come on, man. I'm kidding.
It's the person who pawned the watch, the information of who pawned the Croton watch.
Well, oh God.
And it's, I mean, you can look it up on the in the documents. I'm not going to share that because it's someone's private information.
Needs redacted. Yeah.
The watch is a problem for me. It's a real serious problem because if the Modesto Police Department went and got that watch and now it's disappeared, I got a problem with that.
It should have been DNA tested.
You damn right.
You have the person's name with a signature right here. I'm looking right at it. The bill of sale for the Croton Watch, then follow up with this woman.
Right.
Locate the woman that pawned it.
Right?
And
That's
DNA
so-
test,
For it.
DNA test that watch banned and whatever.
Those
If it
kind
was
of
like-
things, disappearing evidence, disappearing recorded, voicemails and
Yeah.
all those sorts of things in these cases. If you have a case that is, the person is guilty, then just use the evidence that's, let all the truth come out. Let people decide. It pisses me off when these detectives and prosecutors.
It was only pawned. It wasn't sold. The lady got $20 loan against it.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm starting to question that the Croton Watch has anything, because here on the bill of sale, I don't know if I can share this without showing her name. though.
$20. It was a gold watch.
Here's the loan buy
That
number. It
makes no
says right here,
sense.
pawn. It's not a trade. It's not a buy. It's not a consign. It's not an auction. It's a pawn. And when you pawn something, you're loaning against it, right?
Loan. Yeah.
And here's her name. I don't know. I'm starting to think that the Croton Watch thing is not a thing, but
So
well,
she
that's why
would
the
have
watch.
gotten the
That's why they
watch.
can't find.
She would have gotten it back if she paid the $20.
She would have got it back. So how did the cops
Yeah.
have it? And wouldn't this woman be going, "Hey, where the hell's my watch, cops?"
Right.
So it brings
Right.
up even more questions. So now I'm my head's spinning a little bit on this. Oh no. Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad that we're digging into this, because we're finding some reasonable doubt, and I think it's definitely fair to come and check out the other side of the story.
I mentioned this in the chat prior, but it occurred to me that he actually may have been planning on fleeing only because he was so convicted by the media already. Everybody believed he was guilty. If he were innocent, I can see how he would maybe get really scared and even have his family help him flee by giving him cash for the vehicle, and that's a possibility. Drive to South America.
Okay. Well, any other questions, you guys, from your notes, or anything else that's bugging you about this one, or comments, questions, concerns? True Crime Fangirl just joined. Hey, True Crime Fangirl. I think he did it. She says, hey, I think he did it. We'll watch the replay. True Crime Fangirl. Let me add one thing to that. We've been talking about the A&E documentary that came out in 2017 that we're going to cover in the future. Check that one out too, because that brings in some reasonable doubt about Scott's conviction.
I'm pretty sure that I watched that on YouTube. Like, it's available on YouTube.
The first 3 episodes are available on YouTube.
Oh, I watched them all.
You did?
They must have taken the other 3 down. It does happen when it can happen.
Other
People
stuff
put up
comes
these.
out.
Well,
they want to get you. They want you to
get
pay
it.
the money.
They get a complaint. YouTube will get a complaint, copyright violation, and it'll get removed.
Oh yeah.
That's from the A&E, the official A&E YouTube channel, though.
Well, they may have just taken them down then.
Because they want you to get you hooked with the first 3, and then be like, you want to watch the rest.
Yeah.
Get an A&E,
Yeah. Pony up some
I
cash.
mean, I do have it available in my streaming as well. So, but I'm pretty sure I watched it all on YouTube. And it was called, what was it called?
I think it's The Murder of Lacey Peterson. I can double check it. The Murder of Lacey Peterson. It is on the A&E.
There was also
It's also on
Mailman.
Hulu. Oh, it's also on Hulu with the subscription.
Okay,
Huh.
I may have watched it
Let
on
me check.
Hulu.
Let me check Hulu quick. See if I maybe.
That's where I watched it, was Hulu.
Oh. Well, Hulu's been messing with me lately. I don't know. I told you guys the story earlier. I watched half of a movie the other night, and then I tried to watch the other half the next day, and Hulu's like, "No, you don't have the membership." And I was like, "I watched the first half. What's the deal?"
Psych.
Yes, I have it right here. The Murder of Lacey Peterson is on Hulu, so that makes it a lot easier for everybody to
I got
see
Hulu.
it. Okay, yeah, I got Hulu too, so we'll definitely. And here
Well,
it is.
you had Hulu, you mean?
I have it, but some of the things are are the basic account, and some of them are. This one's not
Premiere.
locked, but I watched Aliens. Let's see here. Check out Alien. Come on. And there's a little lock button on there. Aliens. When I went to go watch it, there was it told me to. Oh, now it's gonna let me play it.
It said resume movie.
Good movie, by the way. Now it's letting me. What's going on with Hulu? Anyway, that's my own problem, not your problem.
So, Jeff, I have one more question. What did
Absolutely.
you think about the mailman evidence? The mailman delivered between 10:45 and
10:30 and 10:45, something like that.
Something like that. And the dog did not bark. He barks every day at him. But
So
the dog did not bark that day.
If we go under the assumption that Lacey was still alive and she went for a walk and the mailman delivered mail, she would be on the walk when the delivery man delivered the mail. She was out and about. Right. So that would fit that scenario. If you are under the impression that when the dog's leash was put on and he was out in the front yard, Lacey was actually still home, because the anecdotal information was sometimes they let the dog kind of roam around in the front yard before they would go for a walk, or they'd let her out to kind of, she was a dog that stuck around. And so they did that. Then it fits. Then the postman not hearing the dog fits that the dog and Lacey are out and about on their walk.
All those witnesses saw her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then how does the dog get put back? I guess the murderers would have put the dog back. See, now I'm having some trouble with that one, because who would have put the dog back then?
Maybe.
Is there a time change? No, that wouldn't be that time. Never mind.
So was the dog in the backyard with the leash? Did Scott say that? Or
Yep. That's what he said. When he got home, the dog was in the back with the leash on.
Was the gate open?
Gate was closed, I believe he said.
If she had left the gate open, the dog could have just gone back in on its own.
It does bring up a strange question if you're going to go down that scenario. Then who put the dog back? If the post office man doesn't hear the dog.
It could have been another neighbor or someone walking by. I don't know. But they didn't come forward.
I feel like they would have come forward, though.
Yeah.
It's an important point. 2 people would have put the dog back? I don't know. That's starting to... I'm just saying, like, if we're going to go through those scenarios, that's an interesting one. So I don't really know what to think about the postal worker.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys got any other interesting facts or questions?
I'm just curious about. I'm gonna watch at least episode 6 of the A&E documentary.
Mute for just a second. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna need to watch the other one to
You do need to
get a
watch
real
it.
feel.
I mean, everything in me, just watching Scott, his
Mannerisms.
demeanor, his mannerisms, the things that he did with the nursery, selling the car, just so many things, just, I mean, is he a psychopath? Is he just,
To me, it screams I did it, and I'm you guys. I know you probably are coming after me, and I'm out.
it does, but I mean, there's all these interesting things that really get you thinking that maybe he's not what I thought he was.
Right. I guess it's possible. I mean, I hate to prejudge someone,
It's
but I'm
called
like
reason
you.
out. If all
Well,
of this stuff,
yeah. I mean, if it's a
is
perfect
accurate,
storm and all the arrows lined up against him, okay. I mean,
could be.
that still doesn't excuse him for what he did with Amber and how
Oh, hell no. Hell no. But that doesn't, I
that
mean,
doesn't
that's
mean murder. That doesn't mean he killed somebody, right?
right. Yep.
But I'm definitely interested. I guess
But,
I still believe he did it, but I'm still interested in what else is there. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
yeah. A&E will make you scratch your head.
Oh boy.
Way more than Face to Face did. And
Yeah, I don't like that face to face one did him any favors.
it just makes me really curious why they didn't include some of that stuff, especially the
True.
pregnant women.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have a real problem. It's like, I mean, to me, to kidnap multiple pregnant women would be to take them to get the child for going into to sell
For
them,
God knows
make
what.
money.
Ugh.
Well, I mean that that's a money making thing. That as bad as
Yeah.
that sounds, and then to either do something with the mother, one way or the other, into human trafficking, or to just outright kill them. I'm really interested. I don't know who said it. Then in following up on to see what happened in those particular cases, if anyone ever did. I'm sure there's something out there.
Right.
And why wasn't this part of the headline going on in Modesta at the time? Or was it? And we just
Right.
didn't see it.
Right.
Well, we have the newspapers.com account. So,
Oh, might have to dig into that. Yeah, this one is a slippery slope kind of a case, though, huh? It's like a lot of
well,
because prosecutors prosecutors and DAs release information that they want
Yes.
to be
True.
in the press, and it's usually salacious, and that's what the public wants. And the defense isn't so inclined to get out there and speak up before trial. I mean,
I think they need to.
Yeah, especially in a case like this where you find out that the husband's having an affair. Like, what do you say about that?
Right.
Well, and then next week we're going to talk about Chris Watts, and he had an affair, and that was part of why he did what he did, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a big stretch to imagine that.
Oh, it happens. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, as I mentioned, programming note for next week, we are going to talk about American Murder, The Family Next Door, which talks about the Chris Watts case. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, Chris Watts was accused of, spoiler alert, he admitted to murdering his wife and 2 children, and it is a tragic story. But we have a documentary that's currently on Netflix that you guys can check out, American Murder, The Family Next Door.
I think there's a lot of people that think that his girlfriend helped him I don't know. I
Oh.
remember just seeing a lot of different podcasts and online kind of stuff. I never got into it because I didn't want to. But there's like a whole following of that. I
Wow.
forget her name. But they thought she was just as guilty as he was,
Damn.
or they think that.
Well, unless you guys have any other wrap-up comments for today?
No, I think I pretty much got it until we circle back around. I want to
Yeah.
watch at least part of this other documentary and maybe draw some other conclusions or at least other conversations. And maybe we can look a little bit on what newspapers.com to see if we can find any other headlines about these other
Missing pregnant women.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's a huge problem.
Well, I think to be fair, we also would need to kind of get a baseline of like in big cities like San Francisco and LA, like how many pregnant women go missing in a year? Just to be fair, to just get a baseline of like,
Yeah,
I'm sure it
well-
happens. It's, not, living where I came from in rural Wisconsin, we would know because if we're missing one, it's going to make, big news.
Yeah.
But in a giant city and 5 a year happen, it might just make the 6th page of the newspaper,
Yeah, depending on circumstances of the investigation, there's a lot of factors that can play into that. I mean, it could just be that you have some that just get out of town for whatever reason. They just disappear from a few people, friends' lives, and they're just gone. But they, in reality, have fled to another state or whatever.
Hiding from abusive husbands or
yes, boyfriend, et cetera, et cetera.
possibly.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure. I don't really recall, Jack, but in the documentary, I don't remember if they show what dates those other ones went missing. It may be there, so it might help to narrow down.
We'll try to nail that down and get
dig in
a baseline.
And I urge the people out there to dig in with us and bring forward if you guys find anything. Otherwise, we'll do our best. But
well, I'm like everyone here. I don't want to see anyone incarcerated that is innocent. I would
Agreed.
Really, as much as I feel like there's enough circumstantial evidence that he did it, at the same time, again, all the arrows could have aligned against him. He did his really crappy thing with Amber, however we want to line that up, and it just fell into place. But I think that if there's nails up that could say, hey, there's some other shit going on, we need to look into it and draw conclusions if we can.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's a good idea, and that's what we should do. So look for that in the next few weeks. We'll take another run at this case after we do a couple other documentaries. And what do we got? Anthony D. Hey, folks, I just watched the video. What's up with the watch? The watch, Anthony D., we talked a little bit about the watch. I just looked at the pawn receipt, and it was pawned for $20. And they have the woman's signature and name and address. So I don't know why they didn't follow up with the woman who pawned it to get the story. So I feel like the watch might not be as big of a deal as it's made out to be in this documentary, but I will do some more digging. And next time we talk about this case, I'll try to present something related to that watch. But I appreciate everybody else in chat. And thank you, Susan. Thank you, Katie. And thank you, Jack, for joining today. And unless you guys have any last things to add.
I'm good.
Say goodnight, John Boy.
I don't like Nancy Grace very much.
Yeah, I don't like her either. Okay. We can all agree we don't like Nancy Grace.
I'm in Case Club.
All right.
Oh, God, we all are. Nasty disgrace.
Nasty disgrace. Well, that's it for this week, Documentary Club. I appreciate you guys coming along. This is Face to Face with Scott Peterson. We will see you guys next week for the documentary on Chris Watts. I'm Jeff Jones, and this has been Documentary Club. We'll see you guys on the next one.